Hello. Um, Good evening, Mr. Varghese. Can you hear me?
Let me rejoin.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Good. I think probably we can get started.
Oh, okay, sir. We can start now then. Yeah, so good evening, everyone. We're here for yet another episode of our Industry Connect series. And we have a very special guest with us today who has got over 30 years of experience in this technical field. Hearing about his journey, challenges, and his achievements can surely inspire and motivate us to aim higher in our career. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Varghese Cherian, Head of Technology at UST. Welcome to the session, sir.
Thank you
To
so
give an
much.
to give an introduction about the session and the speaker, I welcome Mr. Anand MS, General Manager and Head of Product with SkillActz. Welcome, sir. Finally, I welcome all others who are present here today. So our title itself is Conversations with.
Thank you, Purnima. And very good evening to everyone. So, some of you might already know, we have been having this Industry Connect series almost every month for quite a while now. So, the purpose of doing this is to give our young graduates, students, and job seekers a chance to get familiarized with the industry, make use of the opportunities for such interactions, and so that they can be better prepared for the world of work. So that is our purpose, and we have been having various people coming in. So today we have Mr. Varghese Cherian, who's the head of technology services at UST. You all know about in the UST as being one of the leading companies, software services companies in Kerala, and Mr. Varghese Cherian, heading the technology services part of it. The way I want to introduce him is as also as a person who has stayed on with the same companies for a long time. So he, after his graduation from CET, for about 8 years, he was with Nest, which subsequently became Quest Global. And after that, now for the last 18, 19 years, he has been with UST Global. So in this age where everyone wants to switch careers and switch companies all the time. So, somebody who was stuck with the same company and has grown to his position today. So, there are probably lessons we can learn from it. So, apart from his, role at UST, serving global clients in their business needs, he's also active with the IEEE in various capacities, like in the promotion of innovation and entrepreneurship. He chairs that division for Kerala now, and he has been with IEEE also actively for quite a long time. So somebody who has remained connected with not just with the world of work, but giving back to the communities. So, with that introduction, I would like to welcome you, sir, for what you have to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Let me just get my presentation up. So just give me a minute. Um, Thank you for the kind words. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I seem to have some problem with my connectivity. Just give me a minute. I'll switch over to a different. Let me see if we can see the screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Um so good evening, everyone. I'm assuming everybody here is from the south of India. So uh, you should, it's good evening for all of us. Uh, the problem with working in a global organization is you really don't know who you're addressing or where they are from. So it becomes a bit of a joke at times. Having said that, I thought I'll just, I'll give you some insights into what I do. I know Anand introduced me, but I thought I'll just give a couple of points in terms of what I really do at UST. As you know, my name is Varghese Charayan. I've been with UST for the last 18 years. This is my 19th year with the organization, as Anand was mentioning. Been in the industry for over 30 years now. In UST, I am the head of technology services, which is a very loosely defined term. Uh, I am responsible for three things for all clients that visit the company. So that's really what I do. On a day-to-day basis, I play any one of these roles, either talking to clients and helping them solution, to meet their needs, and look at my PNL and run it like a business. Because at the end of the day, I'm answerable to my CEO and the board in terms of the revenue and the profits. And then, majority of my time is also spent talking to clients about UST and introducing UST. I roll up to the chief technology officer for the whole of the company, who's based out of US. So that's why I also function in a sense like the offshore chief technology officer for the company. Having said that, I titled this, conversation this more apt than to talk about the different conversations I've had in my life, and to talk what it is that I did, where it is that I went wrong, and what it is that I learned in that process as I became, who I am today, and where I am today. And I thought it makes a lot of sense because, like most of you, I joined an engineering college about 34 years back with a lot of aspirations, with a lot of hope, but really no clue, in terms of what I was going to do, what I wanted to be. It was all going with the flow. And at that point of time, whatever I did was, in a sense, limited, right? And I'll talk you through it. So what I've titled the whole, presentation is, I'm calling it a life in four phases. It's not my autobiography. I'm not here to prescribe anything to you because we are all adults here, and none of us like to be told what to do, right? So what I would like to do is to take a look at my life through these four phases, what I did, where I am today, and all of that, and essentially give you some guidelines and frameworks. Hopefully, the lessons that I learned are lessons that you can learn from, and therefore move on. Now, I was as I said, I started my engineering life about 34 years back. The challenge that I had was there was very little exposure in those days. So whatever I was told was whatever my parents knew. We came from a middle class family, and whatever exposure they had, right? And it was limited because we were all in Kerala. It was not that we were all global citizens in those days. What little exposure I had was because my mother was in BSSE, and I got some level of exposure, even though she was not a technologist herself, right? So I got some level of exposure, but it was very limited. And therein lies the problem, right? And that is why I wanted to make sure that as I go through this, it is more around my learnings and my experiences. Hopefully, that should lead to more conversations between us and more conversations within yourself as you find out who you are and grow to be who you are kind of destined to be. So, having said that, the first thing that I would like to talk about was obviously college, and most of you are college going students. Like I said, I went in with a lot of hopes and aspirations. I was a fairly good student, and therefore I didn't put a lot of effort, right? Because I could understand concepts very fast as long as somebody explained it to me very well. I could pick things up, grasp things up, and therefore I didn't put the effort at all to learning because I was scoring pretty well, in those days. Having said that, I was almost maniacally focused on exploring myself and exploring what college life had to give. So I went and jumped into everything that I could enter. Right, I was an introvert at that point of time, so I literally forced myself to become an extrovert. I became part of the campus chorus in my first year, which was a privilege because there was not a single other first year student that was there. I went into playing a professional drama in college that was actually enacted out in the Tago Theatre. If some of you who are in Toronto would know it. I was part of my class cricket team and my class basketball team, and we were pretty good, probably number one or number two in college in those days across all the different batches that were there. So it was a time where I really, grabbed whatever opportunity came my way, right? And most of it was extracurricular in nature. I didn't realize the importance of it then. But if I take a look back, there were potentially three things that happened. One was I truly understood and learned the importance of being a team player. Uh, and obviously, you look at team sports. I graduated after India won the first World Cup in '83. I was, I watched it live in those days, but it didn't strike you, right? Some of it doesn't strike you because at that age and time, it doesn't strike you. So one of the things I learned was the importance of being a player. And I was not a great player. I was a bits and pieces person, right? I bowled a bit, I batted a bit, I fielded a bit, right? And in the process of being out there and playing and being participating, what I also didn't realize is I was starting to network with almost all of my batchmates. In fact, there were very few people that didn't know me because of that. The second thing is I got introduced to my seniors. I got introduced to my juniors, and that built up a huge, networking group right from college, which is very helpful to me. So that was one learning that I made. The second was I was really not prepared at all to be who I wanted to be, which meant that I had no clue what I wanted to be, which was the grounded reality. I just assumed that going with the flow will help me get a job and take me somewhere, because that was generally what we saw around us in those days. Looking back, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made. If you want to be somewhere, you have to be prepared for it. And there is no two ways about it. And unfortunately, because of the lack of exposure, it was tough in those days. Right? But it's not an excuse, right? I should have done it better. I should have, put a lot more effort into doing it. The second thing that I didn't do was I was not prepared to be what I want to be. Doing is one part, being is another part, right? The role doing is what you are ultimately from a job perspective, and be is what you would like to be in that job. So I was not really prepared. I had no clue who I wanted to become. Obviously we heard of the Tatas and the Birlas in those days, and this, Ratan Tata, who used to be the CEO. It was very aspirational, right? Tata CEO, something that I could never aspire to be because of the exposure that I had. I had no clue as to what, how did Ratan Tata became the CEO of Tatas, right? I assumed because he was part of the family, over time he became the CEO. That was about all that I knew about Tatas. I never had the wherewithal to go and explore and research on trying to understand what was his educational background, where did he come from, what did he do to get to where he wanted to be. So that was one. The second thing that I think I didn't do. Now, in between, what happened was I went and attended the service selection board for Air Force. I cleared it, and that was a big boost for me because I was starting to doubt myself. Halfway through my engineering college life, right? It's very interesting. You get in with a lot of hopes and aspirations, but the second year, the hopes and aspirations kind of died down a bit. The third year, you're desperate now because you really don't know what I said, right? What you're going to do, how you're going to do. Some of you might be different, but I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, right? And the last year was really, what the heck, let me just graduate, right? Whatever comes, I'll pick it up and go with the flow. So that was who I was. But having cleared service selection board, I took a step back and I re-looked at myself. And I realized that out of thousands of people who appeared, about 150 were shortlisted. We went through probably a 360-degree evaluation, right from physicals to team strategies, to individual strategies, to interviews by probably about 20, 30 senior leaders at the same time, to participating in group dynamics and so on and so forth. Right? And it was a big boost because I cleared it. I had at one point of time ambitions of going to the Air Force because I loved flying and aircrafts. So because of that, I thought, okay, now at least I have the wherewithal or the skills or the capabilities to do something in life. Come what come may, whatever I do out of college, at least there is something I can do. So that was a big boost. And if possible, I would encourage all of you to try out Service Selection Board because it's a tremendous process. It's a psychological battery, it's a physical battery, it's a strategic battery, it's a dynamic. There are so many things of you that gets evaluated, and it's a learning process for you, right? That is one of the biggest conversations I had at that time. So I realized I was nowhere. I didn't know what to do. So the first thing that went into my mind was I should become a management professional. So that's really the second phase, right? Graduated from college, got a sales and marketing job. And two things happened. One was we were all given training in sales and marketing, and we were all trained by IIM graduates, right? So they were all IIM Ahmedabad's graduates, or IIM Bangalore, or IIM Calcutta. IIM ANC in those days used to be the number one, number two, number three. B was number three. We only had 4 in those days, right? So I was trained by people who graduated from a college that I aspired to go to. And that's a different story we'll cover a bit later. So essentially what happened is I got a training that helped me understand why I needed to be a professional, where I needed to be a professional, and things that I thought I left when I left school, right? In school, I used to wear a uniform and a tie and so on. In college, it was dressing down as much as possible, to try and fit in with everybody. And then suddenly I was out, and then as a marketing person, we were all expected to wear ties and wear decent clothes and always look presentable. Our language was very important, and the way that we dealt with our customers was very important. We were expected to be professionals, and we were trained in a sense. That was a tremendous learning in itself. But I realized that was not my job. So 6 months into my whole journey, my first job, I realized that I made a mistake. And it was a rude shock for me because nobody likes to make mistakes, right? We don't like to be known as somebody who made a mistake. Now, what else can you do? So I took a step back and I realized that my technology skills were pretty good. I was looking at people who I used to converse with, in Bangalore in those days, and I realized that technically I was quite good, and that gave me a lot of confidence, right? So I said, okay, maybe I need to switch jobs and go from being a management, or my idea of being a management professional, into actually getting into technology, because I was an electronics and communication graduate, and that's what I did. I went and worked with a friend of mine. It was tough because I didn't have a job. I was at my parents' mercy, living with them, depending upon them. Not a very great experience, but you had to do what you had to do. So I kind of, changed tracks. And what really happened was I joined VSSC. I went and found people who could coach me, teach me, mentor me, and essentially that helped me qualify and get into VSSC. Now, in VSSC, one of the things I realized was all the work that you do for one whole year. In those days, I was bang in the middle of the D2 PSLV D2 launch, and I was thrust into it because they wanted people to help, and I was willing to do whatever was required because it was learning, right? I was very anxious because what I realized is all your life's studies, all of your life's work really comes down to 20 minutes that the rocket flies. In those 20 minutes, if even the smallest thing happens, if some of you might know, but the PSLV D1 failed because of a 1-bit error, not a byte, a 1 bit, which means one small number problem was what led to the failure. Now I realized that I had to be a lot more focused. I had to be a lot more diligent. I had to be really, really, really thorough with what I was doing, because even my small mistake could actually derail a large, 4-stage rocket, literally. That was a learning that I had to take. And if you know the rocket launching sequence, the last 13 minutes is what is called as the automatic launch sequence, where what really happens is you completely give the control up to the computer to actually do the entire processing for the 13 minutes. And my boss in those days was the person who used to write that launch sequence. So you can imagine the tension that used to go through us as a team when every rocket used to launch. It was a tremendous experience and a tremendous learning. And I really learned how to become a professional from a job perspective. But from all the other aspects, right? Behavior, dressing, and all of that. In those days, you are a nerd, you are a geek, you wanted to show off your geekiness, so you wore, geeky stuff. So VSSC was for me a geeky period, right? But I learned tremendously in terms of system engineering and so on. And then, literally, what happened was that I at a point of time, I quit VSSC and I joined the Quest or Nest in those days, and I really started learning what professionalism from a organization perspective meant to be, right? Because till then we were in VSSC, I was an internal. It was all internal. Our clients were internal, so we could, the way that we spoke, the way that we addressed. While we say sir, there are different ways of saying sir. At the end of the day. But when we started becoming part of a professional organization, I realized that there are changes that I needed to do. So I moved back again into technology, into software services. This was a growth phase for me because everything was new. I was learning. And the important thing that I realized at this point of time was that you can't say that you will only do this or you will only do that. Because then the opportunities pass you by. So the tremendous learning that I made in this phase was, one, technology is important. I need to be a technologist, but I can't cubbyhole myself into one technology. I had to be open in terms of looking at a customer's problems and solving them using any technology that is out there. It was a tremendous change, and that was the biggest learning that I had. The second biggest learning that I had was every opportunity that is there will require you to unlearn and learn. And if you're not up to unlearning and learning, then you lose the opportunity, and sometimes you lose, you might go haywire. Things might go haywire. So my growth phase was really growing as a person from a technology perspective. And I also started realizing that being a technologist is not enough, right? As you go, there's a corporate ladder. You want to go up the corporate ladder, and there are things that you need to do to grow up the corporate ladder. And that was, again, a rude awakening, because in VSSC, it is every 4 years, if you're good, you will get a promotion. You have to go in front of, meaning there is a criteria and all of that. You will go in front of a panel, but if you've done a good enough job, every 4 years, you'll get a promotion. Suddenly, you're in a corporate world where time is not a matter, right? It is, are you ready to take up the next job or next role? And if you're ready to take up the next role, you will get that role. And what you did till now does not really matter. It is only table stakes in the sense that you need to have those skills, but they won't get you to the next stage. Because that stage needs a separate set of requirements, a separate set of capabilities. And unless you start building them up, you cannot take ownership of the next level. That was, again, a learning for me. And that really led to the fourth phase, which is I realized that I had to evolve myself as a person. So I had to increase my breadth on a lot of topics. right? And that was the biggest learning that I had. Technologies will come and go. Uh, Things will evolve, change, and you as a person needs to evolve almost continuously. In the growth phase, the second thing probably the third thing that I learned was obviously something that you have all heard is you have to learn continuously, right? You have to keep learning. If you thought that learning ended in college, you're doomed in a sense, because you realize that you learn a lot more, and you have to learn through your life and not just 4 years. So that learning became a constant habit. But in the evolution stage, in the evolution stage, what I really went through was, going back and looking at the evolution of me as a person, from being a technologist into being a leader. Till then, it was more around, I'm a good technology guy, that was all that was enough, into starting to think of myself as a leader. And that was, again, a tremendous change and needed a shift in the way I was thinking about things, shift in the way I started acting and being. And that was really the fourth stage. And that leadership growth is still continuing. And as I keep going up, right? And all the things that I talked about so far, right? They're all adding on. So if you think about it, learning is a continuous process. When I started, it was C programming on electronics hardware. Today we are talking about Gen AI. Tomorrow we might talk about something else, right? Autonomous systems are already a reality, but maybe autonomous systems that can think might become a reality in future. So as a technologist, you need to evolve and continuously evolve with the technology. But at the same time, you also need to understand that if you have some growth ambitions, you also need to prepare yourself for each of those growth steps. And that is where all of us need probably mentors and coaches who can take a look at us from an outside-in perspective. They might see things that we might not see of ourselves. They might see pros in us that we might never have thought of. But they might also see cons in us that we might need to throw away. And while my I am ambitions remain there, I realized over a period of time that I was managing folks who had graduated from IITs and IIMs, right? And they are just like us, but they put a lot more effort into being there. So I've done courses. I've gone to IIMs and learned. Had very custom programs done for us as professionals and all of that. I'm not denigrating it in any way, but if that is your focus, keep that focused. But if technology is your focus, then look at how you can become a technologist over a period of time. Each has its own set of pros and cons, because in the service world, a leader is also a manager delivering projects for customers, while a technology guy is a technologist, solving problems for the customer. So two different, worlds in a sense, but they're all part of one large organization. So in short, as I conclude, I think three things, right? One is you can make mistakes. In a 30-year career, if you make a mistake for a year, it is nothing. You can look at what 1 by 3 is, 3%, right? So 3%, if you made a mistake, it is, in college we call it, you can even call it a rounding error, right? Nothing is going to happen. We can all make mistakes. But the key is, can we jump out of it? Because jumping out of it is the tougher part, right? We might need to unlearn, relearn, spend some time, become focused on what we want to do. Second is, find mentors and coaches for yourself, right? It could be people around you. It could be your parents. Today there's a lot of exposure that everybody has because of internet and all of that. Things that we didn't have in those days. LinkedIn is a great resource. I typically tell people, if you think this is where you want to be, go look at a LinkedIn profile of a person in that level and look at what they have done through their careers and see if you can learn something from it, right? The third is every change that you need to go through, and you have to go through multiple evolutions in life, right? In your career, every change is always about unlearning and about learning. That is why this whole journey, if you look at the conversations, are all about learning throughout. but the conversations are also about unlearning. What do I throw away and what do I add? So think of it as layers that you build. Today, you're building a layer of conversations. Tomorrow, it's a different set of conversations. And as you add these conversations, you will end up being where you are destined to be. But that destiny is something you create. There is a bit of chance, but that destiny is what you will create for yourself. That is all that I had. I'm open to any questions. Um,
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Vagisaran. I was listening to it with a lot of curiosity. I was thinking, I was able to relate to all of it, and thinking, wishing that I also had somebody telling me about this back then when I was much younger. So many words of wisdom. And this really is the purpose of this session. So I wish all of you will make use of this opportunity to also ask questions and interact, and that is also a skill that we need to pick up, to
yes.
ask questions and to interact, and make that one moment count for us, ourselves, and for everyone around us. Because when we ask questions, is when it becomes interesting for all of us. So please go ahead. So while we wait, something, one of the topics which fascinates me always is, a lot of, probably most, young people, when they graduate and begin their careers, one of the things, they have to, start thinking about, and, very soon have to deal with this choice. Whether to their face, or is it always there? How do we deal with this?
Right. So I would look at it from two perspectives, right? Let me look at it as a first step that you do. So if it's a first step that you're doing, which is after college you want to go into something different, the question that you should ask yourself is, what am I really passionate about, right? And what I realized after about a year, of my professional life, like I said, I made a mistake, right? When I made the mistake, I went and worked with a friend of mine who was running an organization who was doing small electronics projects. Not small. In fact, we were one of the first, people who actually built a signage using LED lights in those days. Today we have LCDs to do all of that, but you can imagine if you are in electronics, you can imagine having a lighting circuit and switching on and off lights and creating ABC and signages and all of that in those days was not a simple task. So, I realized that I had a passion for electronics, a passion for technology, and that is part of the reason why I really went and did my interview at the SSC, because I realized that it's a great opportunity. Um, I could be home, so I don't spend any money. Or whatever I get is my own, because I'm living in my home. So choose what you're passionate about, right? If you think you've made a mistake, that's fine. Then you look at how we can figure out what you want to do next, right? Which is why I said there's a learning, unlearning, and a learning experience, right? If you realize that you're very, very good at finance and you really want to go for finance, make it a point to start looking at roles that you could play, right? But if you look at anything, you would realize that you would have to get a finance degree if possible, or become a management graduate, in some government organization or any public organization, in a sense, that have that opportunity to really go to the next step, right? Or you could go to college and get an MBA in finance, and then you're on your way. So there are opportunities there that can help you, but really be passionate about what you want to do, because this is not a 6-month cycle, right? Your career is 30, 34, 35, 30, 40 years. And you have to be really passionate if you want to run it for 40 years. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? 42.2 kilometers, right? 42 years is a marathon. So if you think about it, the skills that you need for a marathon are very different from the skills that you need for the sprint. So endurance becomes a very important. And for endurance, passion is very important, right? So go with your passion, try and learn your passion. That is why I said, having mentors will help, because they can probably help you with understanding what that passion is. And if you are looking at a mid-career aspect, see, as you go up the corporate ladder, you will necessarily have to evolve, right? So today, if I look at what I do, about 50% of the time is really have conversations with customers, right? And it helps that I'm an electronics engineer, so I understand electronics. I'm a software engineer, so I understand software. But I'm not a functional person, right? So I don't know retail well enough or banking well enough to really say I'm a banker or a retailer or a healthcare expert and all of that. I'm a pure technology person. So at the end of the day, I need to have some skills, in retail. So I need to learn about retail. I need to learn about a bit about banking, a bit about healthcare, which is something that you have to pick up and learn, right? But 50% of my time is management. I'm a leader within UST and have a lot of leadership responsibilities for it. But I'm also a leader from a technology perspective, talking to clients and solutioning for the clients, and essentially going in front of the customers and talking about solutions and convincing customers to give the projects to us. So you will evolve, right? At some point of time, you'll have to take the call, but take the call very holistically. Don't look at least in my case, right? I never took a job or a role because of the money that I was offered, right? For me, it was always about the passion, and my expectation was that the passion would bring me the remuneration. Right? Sometimes you might need to nudge a few people here and there to give you a better remuneration, but for most parts, I was very content with what I was getting, because my passion was really technology, and I loved solving problems for our customers. Be willing to change. I think that is the biggest aspect that that I would suggest, and follow your passion. It sounds very simple. It is not. And sometimes that is why I said, I made a mistake, right? And I'm very open about it. But I learned from it, right? I thought I would say 100% that I became a better professional because I was trained by professionals, right? Those 6 months were a big learning experience for me, but it also helped me understand that was not my future. We still have a problem with starting trouble. Always.
This was me, 20 years ago. I would never want to, volunteer to speak. But I remember this occasion, at least a couple of occasions. So when I was doing my MBA, it was a small place that had just started. And they were trying to bring a few people from the industry to come and speak to us. What really made a difference to those sessions was that there were 2 or 3 people in our class who were very active in asking questions, and then that encouraged everyone else also to ask questions. And almost all the visitors who came went away somehow happy that there were a lot of people asking questions. And so, this was a new college, but it really, helped us to, slowly, several people started telling that, that place has an energy, and that, many people, liked coming and speaking to us as a group. So what the difference it made was tremendous, and I could see that happening. Myself being very much an introvert, so I remember that, and I was in that place, never volunteering to ask questions. So this is a skill again that we can all easily learn if we practice enough. So again, I would encourage one of you to please come ahead and ask or make a comment or something. Come on.
I will give you one prescriptive aspect, right? Ones who speak are the ones who are going to get noticed, good or bad. Yeah. Okay, I have one question. Thanks, Christy, for that question. Absolutely, right. I think that was what I was trying to also say. So I started as a sales and marketing professional, switched my career into being a technology person, and been a technologist throughout. I did delivery related aspects for a few years as well. Then I realized that my focus has to be really around technology. So I moved from being a project manager, program manager to being an architect full time. Though in those roles that I played, whether it was project management or project program management, I was playing an architect role, but I became a full fledged architect. And that was really when I joined UST. I moved out of delivery responsibilities completely and became more a pure tech person, creating solutions for our customers. So if I look at my career, I did three switches from being a sales and marketing professional into being a project, a software developer to a product manager, program manager, into being an architect, a solution architect. And now, I like to say I'm a technologist, but at the end of the day, I'm a leader, right? Which is, uh, a role that demands more than just being a technology person, right? So I'm a spokesperson for the company, which has nothing to do with my technology role. I will hold a P&L, so I need to understand finance very well, right? Direct expense, indirect expense, what EBITDA is, So you learn it over a period of time. Those are additional layers, like I'd like to think, rather than a switch. But I really made three switches, I think, from being a sales, a delivery person, or a manager into more of a technology and an architect and a solution architect roles. Challenges are many, right? Each needs different skill sets. And at the end of the day, it is, I think, our success is only dependent upon how much of effort we are willing to put to be in that role, right? It's not going to be easy. That's why I keep saying this again and again, right? Unlearning is very important. You have to put off a lot of things that you had learned and be ready to learn a new set of things. And that takes effort. Um, and there is no good or bad. At the end of the day, it's your choice and what you would, again, your passion, right? What is it that drives you, helps you to wake up every day morning, and do things. In fact, interestingly, last couple of days I've been, we were in front of a customer defending our proposal and a project. It was a team of the CXOs of the bank there. I know nothing about banking other than the fact that my money falls into a bank and I retrieve it. Right, basic credit debit, everybody understands. We were preparing for 2 days, and the presentation was for 5 hours. Right, so you can imagine it's a you need to really work hard. The last couple of days we've been sleeping probably just about 3-4 hours a day, preparing, and I was learning. I was learning things that I had no clue about in the banking field, the banking industry, learning things in technology that I had no clue about. And accelerated learning, right? You are in a pressure cooker situation. You have to be ready in 2 days. You have to go in front of the customer. You have to learn. There is you can't say that that's not my thing and I will not do it. That's that is a sure shot way to kill your career. And it's not easy. And I will not make it out to be easy because it is tough. You have to do a lot of things, um, you know, to get there. Thanks for the question. I hope I answered your question. See, even within your job, whatever, right? When you're switching careers and all of that, find mentors, right? People who are in the role that you want to be. Talk to them, understand what it really is. And one of the big challenges that I see with a lot of folks coming out of college is sometimes there's a very wrong expectation of what you do in a software firm because we only have a peripheral knowledge, and sometimes that knowledge is very dangerous. So your expectations when you come in and the reality are very different. So it's quite important as far as possible to really understand what is it that you need to do in that job role or profile, and finding somebody who can help you answer that is a very critical element in your preparation to be there. And that is the most important thing that I think I learned, over a period of time. Our CEO had this, perspective. He said, before asking the question, what stage are you in? Whatever stage, right? If you ask a question and the person says, so if you ask for help and the person says no, what position will you be in? Exactly the same position, right? Nothing has changed. If you ask the question and he or she says that I will help you, you're in a much better position. So unless you ask, you don't know what you're going to get. And if you ask and you get, you're in a much better position. So ask, right? If you don't ask, then you might feel that, you missed out, right? What you should have asked, you never asked.
Anybody else?
If you don't want to speak like Christy, you can always put a question in the chat box.
If not, then probably we can also, I think we are nearing the end of our 1 hour, so we can wind down. So, I don't want to make it very formal, but this has been one of the most profound experience sharing I've heard in a long time. Sharing your personal journey. Even for me personally, it's been useful, and I've been reflecting on it. I hope all of you who have been attending it will find that they have the same experience. I would encourage all of you also to think about some of the things that we listened to today. So with that, let me once again thank Mr. Varghese Saryan for this time. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you, all of you who joined, and especially Christy, who volunteered to ask the question, and my team members who supported me to organize it. So thank you all. We'll be, just now we are going to, put that in a link for those of you who would like to get that their certificate of participation. We will send that to you. That form will also be pasted in the comment box right away. So with that, let us close. Thank you all.
Thank you and good night, everyone.
Good night.